Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening to you, dear Microsoft Dynamics partners. Welcome at this edition of QBS Talks, where we're going to talk about the changes that Microsoft will bring or create because of higher update frequency and the impact that it has on customer satisfaction, but also on your internal processes. So first, as a short introduction, what is QBS Talks? So QBS Talks are webinars that we deliver from QBS Group. And as you might or might not know, QBS Group is a SMB distributor, previously called MasterVAR, and we do these activities at the moment mainly in Europe. So today there are more than 500, it says Dynamics NAV partners, but there's a growing number of CRM partners as well in 20 European countries that see QBS as their distributor, as their value-add distributor, and all we do at QBS is everything we can to help them improve their business. So we live by the mantra that says QBS partners are the best informed Microsoft partners, which is easy to say but difficult to deliver, as you can imagine. However, we all feel and know that we live in times of huge changes, not just on the product side, but also in the market and in our societies. And we hear every day that the existing QBS partners are very happy that we assist them with selecting the information, filtering the information, and bring the most important and relevant information to the desk of the partners. We do that in many ways, and the QBS Talks webinars are one of the ways we do that. So we deliver these QBS Talks on a frequent basis. You might think of every 2 or 3 weeks we have one, and there's a link, as you can see on the slide. You get, of course, will receive all the slides after the call, where you can find the QBS Talks that are scheduled for the next weeks and months. And well, you never know. Some people say, whoa, I like the story, I like the content, I like the way that QBS helps partners. You might be interested to become a partner yourself. Then, of course, we have a landing page that tells you everything you want to know about becoming a member. So that's the first part of the introduction. The second part is a few words about myself. So if I look at the names of the people in the call, I think that I know a lot of you, and probably you know or have seen me presenting or have been reading my blogs over time. So my name is Guus or Goes or Goes or whatever you prefer to pronounce. Krabbenborg. I'm one of the co-founders and co-owners of this nice company, QBS Group. Actually, personally, from a personal perspective, I've worked all my life in business applications. Because the number is getting frightening. I just try to say it's over 30 years, north of 30 years. And my take, my position, my contribution in this company is the one of training, coaching, and inspiration, or sometimes even provocation, and then not on the functional and technical side of the software, but on the business skills. So we talk about strategy, cloud transformation, sales, marketing, and what have you. Over the last 4 years, I've been focusing very much on helping partners to make the step from the traditional on-premise service-intensive projects towards the more product side of the market. So Microsoft had programs called Road to Repeatability, later on renamed as Cloud SureStep for Dynamics. And I trained, as you can see, more than 150 partner companies. That's not people, but companies in more than 35 countries all over Europe. What I think is interesting in my job is not just work with and for you guys as partners, but I also run workshops for prospects, for companies that are searching for either new ERP or CRM or both. And these people, especially in small and medium businesses, are very inexperienced. As a matter of fact, I found out that most of them, more than 90%, that is 90, are responsible for selecting and implementing such a system at the customer side for the very first time in their life, or maybe for the second time. And you might wonder, what about the rest, the 10%? Well, the 10% are people that do this professionally. So they're either selection consultants or they're interim managers. So what it means is that most of the people that I talk to in those workshops, but probably also most of the people that you talk to when it concerns new systems are beginners. And that's something that most partners tend to forget, right? It's easy to talk three-letter words like ERP and CRM and SCM and scalability and la, what have you. But I think it's very important to realize that the people you talk to most of the time have no idea what you say. And that, of course, has an impact on your sales pitch. It has an impact on the content on your website. Think about your company presentation, your proposal, your project plan, and so on and so forth. Why do I say this? Because for me, it's very interesting to live with one leg on your side, the partners and the vendors, but my other leg lives in the customer side. And I feel very lucky to be in the middle of these two. So I hear what the customers say about the partners and what partners think about customers. And I can tell you that gives a lot of inspiration for presentations on events or for doing QBS Talks or writing content. So enough about that. Let's move to the session objectives. So I thought to split the content in four buckets. So I would like to start short with some context and observations, like what's going on in the market and why is it important to see what I see and to share that. Then the second step is everything you need to know about, let's say, cloud related to the frequency of updates and upgrades. Right? And then step 3 is what does that all mean for your situation, for your proposition, what you offer in the market, for your service and support, for customer satisfaction, and maybe also for mindset in your head, in my head, and in the heads of your colleagues. And then I would like to end up with some call to actions. So let me start with context and some observations. So first and foremost, I see and you see and we all see that Microsoft is dramatically changing the update frequency of her ERP and CRM solutions, right? So if I just take a look at NAV, for long years we had a new major release, a new version every 2 years. I think from 2015 we started, Microsoft started speeding up and say we got a new version every year. So 2016, 2017, 2018. Now I think we're on the brink of a change again, where Marco Perezis recently confirmed that Microsoft will move to an update frequency of every 6 months. So that's every 2 times a year. And the interesting point is that in the old days, if I can call it that way, right, where people say I buy a system and for fiscal reasons I depreciate my investment in 5 years. They bought the system. Well, if you see every 2 times a new version in their life cycle of 5 years, they had 2 decision moments to say, are we going to take the upgrade, yes or no? 2 in 5 years. Well, if you're with me and the frequency went up to a year, it means 4 or 5 times in 5 years. And now we're on the brink again to have new versions every 6 months, which means that in a 5-year period, you get 11, 12 new versions, right? And of course, this all belongs to the characteristics of software as a service, right? But what I see, my observations traveling around Europe and talking to like hundreds of partners, I see that for many partners, this is new in a sense that, they know software as a service, evergreen, deliver what you have, but not every partner did already proper thinking about the impact on things as implementation, support, training, service, pricing, and what have you. I guess it's the same for your customers. Maybe your prospects are most further on the line because they live in the world of choosing cloud solutions and they talk with vendors about cloud solutions, so they might be the best informed. But for sure, your traditional customers, that still live in NAV 370 or CRM 3.0 or older, they're used to this update frequency in the old way. For them, it will be pretty new. And as I said, this does not always or automatically perfectly fit. So I think it's important that partners understand the impact and that they understand, which domains in your company, your proposition, and in your mindset are hit and which ones you should consider change. So, topic number 2, what you need to know, what we all need to know about cloud related to upgrade frequency. So, I would say as a sort of a definition, SaaS, software as a service, equals deploy the functionality that is available. It means there's a new version, like Microsoft now for Nav and Business Central will say every 6 months, it means the new version will be pushed to all the customers, right? And some people call that evergreen, right? It's like with music, they say evergreen, it's the latest and the greatest. It's, that's what you get, right? And that's what vendors will push to you. It's not that you could say, I'm still working on Nav 370 or CRM 3.0, 10 years old with customizations, the danger of no more support, a burning platform. No, you get what's available. And I think it's important, as the second point, it's important to state that this is not, invented by Microsoft. That's important for you to realize, but I think it's also fair to say this to your customers and your prospects. Because evergreen and pushing the functionality that is available and more frequent updates, that's the new normal in the cloud. That's what everybody does, right? So it means that instead of having, let's say, a huge upgrade, like call it here the Big Bang upgrade every 2 years, right? And again, you could skip one or skip two, but then the steps to upgrade will even be more challenging. Instead of that, we will have a more frequent, more often updates, but are smaller, right? I think it's interesting to compare that with your phone. So if you have a mobile phone, you use WhatsApp. I got a message like there is an update for you. And the update, you can install it now or maybe tonight. Say what you want. Well, I would say do it tonight because then I'm sleeping. And next morning, the new version is installed. It's, fully upwards compatible. I don't need training. I don't need documentation. That might be the ideal world. Now, I'm from Holland, but I'm not an idiot. So I know that ERP is something different than a communication app like WhatsApp. But I think the ideas could be similar, right? And what I see is that monetizing software in the cloud has a different strategy than in on-premise. When Microsoft decided to bring some structure, I think it was Kirill Tatarinov by then, the vice president Dynamics, who said, whatever will happen, we will deliver every 2 years. And if the update's not finished, then we skip functionality because what I want is deliver every 2 years. I think that was good. And the market was asking for that, right? No updates frequency 3-4 years, then it's too late, not too often. So in on-premise, we agreed on the 2 years. But ladies and gentlemen, if you ship an update every 2 years, then, if you create a unique, nice new function or module 1 month after the release, you have to put it on the shelf and it has to wait 23 months until the next large update. So for 23 months, you don't monetize, you don't use the IP that you create. Well, that's different in the cloud, right? So people don't want to wait so long and they say, if it's available, I want to push it. And if you see in the bottom, Marko Perisic, the general manager for Dynamics 365 Business Central, recently in one of the QB Shares events, he answered a question on the number of updates. And he says, potentially, you can count on one upgrade per day, which is 365 a year. Well, that's theoretically, right? Or potentially. That's not really workable and not doable. So that's the reason why Microsoft decides that to save all them for 6 months and then bring the new version. Okay. So that's, I think, important to know. And here's what I tried to tell you. And maybe you're already familiar with all this. Maybe it's new or partly new. My suggestion to you is to think about communication with your customers in a customer event, in a newsletter, in a blog on your website, or all four. And maybe, it's smart if you try to explain what I explained to you with the same words or other words to your market, right? So people need to learn what's so different in cloud and what the impact of that is for them. So before we talk about impact for them, right, this webinar is focused on what the impact is for you. So I said, several points. What is it? The impact on your proposition? What do you offer? Right? Is it still smart to offer endless customizations in this faster changing world? What is the impact on customer satisfaction? And like I said, we should also maybe think about mindset, not for all the brilliant people that I have here in the call, but think about the people that are maybe less open for change, or the people that see their work changing dramatically, like your developers, right? If I have 2 years, or the Microsoft developers, rather than having 2 years and then, have a peak, and then afterwards, the first 6 months you can do quiet. Well, Marko Perisic told me that this rhythm was completely disturbed because now there's a peak every 6 months. Think about documentation and testing and training materials and so on and so further. So it's also a mindset point. So here's what I think a few points that touch your proposition, your customer satisfaction, your mindset. Mind you, it's not intended to have a complete list of everything, right? I thought, let me take out a few or maybe obvious things and discuss them with you. So let me start in the top. I believe that this higher update frequency does have a big impact on the way you partners sell and deliver solutions, and more specific on the way you sell and deliver customizations. Because think about it, if you do a traditional NAV on-prem project, but you know that on-prem will be updated with the new name, Dynamics 365 Business Central or something, will be updated every 6 months, and you do a 18-month development project and implementation, by the time your customer is up and running, they are 2 or 3 versions behind. And on day 2 of the go live, you should start talking with them about upgrading, and then they have to skip 1 or 2 already. So, is that really what customers want? Or should we say, hey, probably the tactics work differently in this cloud world, and putting myself in all kind of customizations so much that I can't move anymore. Again, in the on-premise world, after 5 years, I was only 2 versions behind. In the new world, I could be potentially 10, 11, or 12 versions behind. So I think that sales and pre-sales people and marketing people have to have a discussion and learn to position and sell the benefits of standard solutions. And if people say, yes, but I'm different, that's probably what every customer say in every country, right? I'm different, I'm special. Sure you are. But if people say, this is how I work, and please customize this for me in a new solution, rather than just do it and make some money, you maybe should question them. Why do you want this? And why is it so important? And if they say, well, that's what we always had for the last 10 years in this old system, I'm being Dutch, I would say, so is your market exactly the same as 10 years ago? Do you still have the same competitors? Is your margin the same? Is your target group, don't they have internet, right? So, just questioning that what was good enough 10 years ago, is that still valid? And I see that a lot of customizations that is built is done because people don't want to change. And they say, my father did it this way and my grandfather did it this way. So they do it as a sort of a habit. When I think about changing financial administrations as an example, I would say, again, being blunt Dutch, I would say, if financial administration is not your core business, then don't change it. So unless you're a bank or maybe an insurance company, I would say there's not really a reason to make customizations in your system. And if you want to customize, then you better do that on the forefront, in the front end, where you make really an advantage compared to your competitors. But maybe we step in a world now where we should not change software anymore, but this is the time now that we start talking with the customers about their processes. Are your processes still relevant? Or would it be a good moment now you want to implement something new to also be critical to your processes and maybe change your processes to the software so that you stay closer to the standard, right? I'd say that also means that, partners should learn to sell and develop new wishes, because there will always be new wishes, not to make them one-on-one as a customization for one customer and the result to lock them in and make them unhappy, but try to bring this new wish in the standard add-on. Maybe not 100% as they want it, but if you say we can make it sort of how you want it, but it's only 92 or 96% of what you want, but then you have the advantage as part of the standard, it's tested, it's documented, the help desk had knowledge, and. I think that is something you could sell. And to be honest, I see partners that work that way, and they make their software one too many. So over time, their add-on becomes bigger and bigger and better. So that's one point. The second point, if you have a add-on, if you have what I call ISV solutions, the question is how you're going to organize that. So are your developers on one day doing custom development and the other day doing working on your standard add-on, or you work with separate teams? Another question, if you think about what should be added in this add-on, how should we develop it, is to think about user groups. And I assume some of you already have user groups, but think about it. If you have a user group and it's well organized. And of course, you have to put effort and content and what have you in that. You can do it face to face, but maybe you can open LinkedIn groups or a Yammer page or whatever tool you use for that. At least then you have a group where you can mirror and benchmark the new wishes, right? And you should do that, in my opinion, to get support from your customer base for changes. So that is not your developer who decides what's most important. It's not the salesperson that shouts loud. It's not the customer that pays more, but it's the market, the trends that are most important in the market. And again, I see partners that work this way very well. And they don't have to say we make this because it's more important, better, or whatever, but they say, we check this with our customers and this is what they want, right? So you use their collective branch knowledge. Number three, if you think about those solutions, right, we know that a proper add-on, a proper ISV solution is tested, really tested. It's documented, really documented. It has release notes and it needs training materials. So that's probably what you do now, but in a sequence of every 2 years or every year, right? Then you fasten your seat belts, because now this is a process you need to do every 6 months. And we know that the updates are smaller, so the testing will be smaller and less to be documented, but it needs to become a machine rather than incidental projects, right? So again, question, how do you organize that? And then number three out of the list is the support. So it says, how many versions do you support and how long? So I assume that today you all have sort of a support agreement, right? Where you say, there's updates, there's help desk, and you sort of limit, hopefully, the number of versions that you support. So I know from many partners, they say there's active support for the last and the one but last version. And in the traditional world, it means, we support the version that's current and the one that is maximum 2 years old or 3 years old, right? Well, if that's still the text, I would say you should, reread your agreements and start thinking, is that what I want to offer in the new world? And of course, close to that, the question is, so how many versions are you going to support? If there's a new version every 6 months, that means in 3 years' time, there's 6 versions. Are you going to support all the 6 versions? Especially when Microsoft says, the version is available as cloud and as on-prem. So do you store all them, right? How do you organize that? Do you have people that know all these versions? Is it only one? What if the person goes for holiday, went ill, or leaves the company? So how can you secure in serious professional SLAs? And then how long do you want to support all those older versions? I know from a lot of partners that say, we happen to have this very experienced developer who started with NAV 1.0 or CRM 1.0. But, if I say, what if the person gets ill or leaves or whatever, it could be a single point of failure, which was okay maybe over the last 10 years. But think about the situation now. ERP and CRM is crucial, right? It's not just an option anymore. Everybody needs it. And if it doesn't work, the damage could be huge. So I would assume for many of you in the call that the change now to Dynamics 365 and new updates every 6 months could also be a perfect point to start rethinking about support, okay? Part of that, in my humble opinion, and I'm only a small guy from a small country, so who cares? But in my humble opinion, you should start thinking how you could motivate your customers to stay current. In cloud, it will happen because, that's the nature of cloud. But I think it would be very nice for you to have your on-prem customers, let's say, in the same sequence, right? If they want to stay close to the standard and you help them understand why it's important for them, you might think how to motivate them. And then there's motivation with the stick, hit them, or motivation with the carrot, right? Motivate them to do something. What I know from partners that say, this is the money you pay for maintenance, for BREP, if you want to say it that way, if you're on the current version. And the partner says, if you're 1 year behind, for whatever reason, you're going to pay 1% more. If you're 2 years behind, you pay 2% more. In other words, you could say they punish people for not upgrading, or turn it around and say, we reward our customers if they stay with us. And that leads actually to the introduction of something called update as a service. Right? Today, updates of old NAV or CRM customers are projects on itself. And I've seen updates that cost 100,000 euros or multiple 100,000 euros. Actually, last week at QBS Share in Germany, I talked with a partner that says we delivered NAV with customizations to a large organization. These people have a competence center. They continue the customizations, and the migration now demands 9 man-years of work. Can you believe that? Right? So we need to go in this fast changing world, and hopefully your customers and prospects understand that. Otherwise, you have to explain to a situation where it's better for them to stay close to the standard with less customizations rather than have a big bang customization and then be locked in a version, that becomes older and older every 6 months. So that's where update as a service comes around the corner. So I think we're close to the last slide, which is call to actions. And, I picked out, let's say, 5 points. Again, this is not complete, but I think there's a number of important questions or call to actions for every partner in the call. Number 1, how are you going to implement these frequent new versions? And I see that implementation were always projects because you did it once, it had a start and a finish, and then they went live. But I think we move into implementation as a service. Right? Frequent updates. They come every 6 months. We have to continue to say, are we doing the right way? Do we work the right way? Do we benefit from all the functionality that's relevant for us? Right? So it's not so much boof everything and then, stress for months or years. No, it starts small and update frequently. Right? That's the first thing. What has to do with that, I think, is train people. How to train them. Starts with your own staff. Right? How are you going to train your own people every 6 months? Do they have to do it in work time? Do they have to do it in spare time, their own time? What budgets do you have for that? Are you going to train them themselves? You have a vendor to do that. Next question, how do you offer trainings for your customers? Right? I know that many partners work with videos. Again, right? If you make a video, you take videos from Corp and you have to translate them in Spanish, Italian, Swedish, German, wherever you live. That's doable every 2 years. That's more, we do it every year. But now the challenge is to do it every 6 months. So how are you going to do that? And how are you going to prepare your customers on this, training need? And then, last but not least is, training content. So we could expect, and we might expect from Microsoft that they change their training content into a machine that comes with new content every 6 months. Right, in the right formats. Right? Could be release notes, like the one from spring 2019. Have you already read the 835 pages? I'm not finished yet, to be honest. Or you do it with video or any other format. And that's, what Microsoft will do for Dynamics 365. Your challenge is to think about how you're going to do that for your IP. And then we talked about implement, train, but, it's as important is to upgrade. So again, my suggestion is review your support agreements. What does it say about upgrades? Are they forced? How many versions do you support? And I think, rather than talk about implementation as a service, you should start thinking about update as a service. And you might or might not know that QBS has a strategic alliance with a company called One Click Factory. As a matter of fact, we bought a part of the shares last year, so we are an important partner for them. And they are one of the 6 development centers certified by Microsoft worldwide, one of the 6 worldwide, have deep knowledge, and they have an interesting bunch of services. One of them is update as a service. Right? So it means that you don't give a big surprise, a big quotation every 2 years for what the upgrade could be, but One Click is prepared and highly automated and willing to offer updates as a service, which means that you have a contract for a fixed price where you pay per month, and as a result you get 2 upgrades per year. So you're always evergreen. And if I were in your shoes, I'm not. As a matter of fact, the sun is shining in Holland, so I don't wear any shoes at this moment, a detail. But if I were in your shoes, I would start thinking of trying to bundle this upgrade as a service and maybe implementation as a service, and maybe training as a service as part of a overall maintenance contract, right? Then question number 4, we talked a lot about your own ISV solutions, but I realize that some of you work with solutions from third-party ISVs. So what I would like to do in your shoes is, check with them, what are their plans? What are they going to do? How do they anticipate on this new frequency. Maybe some of them are in this call, right? For some inspiration. So definitely I would check for my own stuff, but also check for the content and add-ons that I got from third parties. And then point five, very, last but not least, especially not least, is, what will be your pricing strategy? Right? So I would, in your shoes, think about the value you can deliver, right? The value of upgrades, easy upgrades, highly automated, the value of staying close to the standard, the value of helping your customer to take advantage of each and every detail of the system, because that could make them more competitive and, win deals from their competition. So I think, you should of course, consider the cost. So I believe it's time for rethinking pricing models. And I would, give you the suggestion, humble suggestion from Warm Holland today, to consider bundling that with your subscription fee for the license. And you could think about, subscription fee for implementation, training, upgrade, and help desk. So that's really what I wanted to share. I think, Daniela, we're pretty close to the 30 minutes. It doesn't happen often if you have me as a speaker, but hey, maybe it's because of the good weather. So I said in the start that we do this QB shares on a frequent basis. Well, my next QB share session will be on May 15. So that's in like 3.5 weeks. And the title is a bit different than the topic today. It says, Stop Selling Licenses. Don't be scared, because the line doesn't stop. But it said, Start Selling Successful Projects. Right? So this blog will help you, this webinar will help you to understand what you can do, not to sell licenses, but to sell success. So there is a link in it. You can register, but you can see it in the total list. And then my last slide is this one with the question to you. Do you have any questions? If you can use the Q&A part of the software, and there could be no questions because you're still thinking what this all means. There could be no questions because you prefer to do it one-on-one, or maybe there's just no questions. So if you want to do this on a one-on-one, hopefully you see my contact details. So it's gk@qbsgroup.com. And if you prefer to call, then you see my mobile number. And then I think that's it for this webinar. Daniela, back to you.
Yes, that's it. Thank you everybody for joining, even with this beautiful weather here in the Netherlands. You will receive the recording and slides afterwards, and we hope to see you in the next QBS talk.
Okay, well, thank you on behalf of Daniela and myself. Have a nice day or nice evening, and hope to see you soon in the next QBS talk. Bye-bye.